Hey y'all, it's Mary Hyatt, and I am so excited you're here for this month's topic, which is all about femininity. If you are tired of taking your cues of being a woman from diet culture, Hollywood, or the porn industry, this is going to be a great month for you. We'll be exploring the different facets of embodying your own unique femininity and create the space so that you can tap into your own feminine essence. Ooh, this is going to be decadent, y'all. So let's get into it.
Welcome to the Living Fully Alive podcast with Mary Hyatt, here to help you find your authentic voice, learn how to love yourself, and embrace your life. And now, your host, life and mindset coach, body love advocate, and doTERRA Presidential Diamond, Mary Hyatt.
Hey everybody, it is Mary. Happy holidays, Merry Christmas, Happy New Year. I've got an awesome episode today because I have not one, but I have two very special guests on the podcast today, Em Atkinson and Linda Addis, who are both feminine leadership coaches, and they are the founders, visionaries, and sacred space holders for the revolutionary woman and their inner circle, the Moon Society. We have such a powerful conversation around our hormonal cycles, our menstrual cycles, and how that relates to the cycles of the moon. And it is a way that we can really begin to embrace our femininity even deeper. But these ladies are so knowledgeable, so amazing. They joined forces in 2019 to create the Revolutionary Woman on this belief that alone we can change lives, together we can change the world. The Revolutionary Woman has since grown into a global community of courageous women who are fiercely committed to living bold, unapologetic, and passionate lives and being leaders in their communities. Em and Linda's teachings and trainings blend ancient wisdom with the modern way of living. They reconnect women to the sacred cycles within themselves, the earth and the moon, so that they can live, love, and lead with ease, flow, and integrity. Through their online community and in-person trainings, Em and Linda are dedicated to supporting rising feminine leaders through their spiritual awakening so they can step into their purpose and make a difference in the world. When Em and Linda are not empowering a new generation of light workers, you can find them dancing under the full moon, skinny dipping, obsessing over their dogs, Opie and Aura, or indulging in dark chocolate. So guys, without further ado, here is my conversation with Em and Linda. All right, real quick, I had to share the exciting news that you can now text with me. And yes, it is really me. There's no team. There's no automation. Like, I am actually on my phone texting you. And I love this because if you're like me, you're sick of all of the drama and the negativity on social media, or maybe your inbox is completely overwhelmed with emails and you don't even get to read my emails. Well, now we can chat over text. And what I love about this is that I'll be sending you little love notes and reminders to bring in some more ease and gentleness and light and grace and love into your life through weekly affirmations and encouragement. So what do you say? You want to be text friends? Let's do it. Here is my number, y'all. Grab a pen, or of course you can go to maryhyatt.com/text. But here's the number. It's 615-930-3522 and say hi. Let's connect. All right. Now back to this week's episode. Hey everybody, it is Mary Hyatt, and oh my gosh, I am so excited for today's episode. This has been just like a killer month already, and this episode is no exception. But before I get in and introduce you guys to Emily and Linda, I know you've heard their bio. I know you're already excited, but let's do a quick recap on the previous episodes, because every month we dive into a topic. Obviously, we're talking about femininity this month, which is juicy. There are so many directions we can go with this topic. And so in a lot of ways, it's kind of hard to narrow it down. But the first episode, The Essence of Femininity, I talked about the foundation of how, man, we have so many expectations and roles and rules for being a woman that sometimes it can be hard to kind of clarify that for ourselves and find our own self amidst cultural and religious and locational kind of suggestions for our womanhood, for our femininity. And so in that episode, I kind of talk about that a little bit and what it's like to create your own unique definition of femininity for yourself outside of all of that information and noise. And then the second episode of this month, Lindsley Brooks, my part-time co-host, I know you guys love her, we got into the feminine archetypes and we connected that to the zodiac signs. So we actually went through 12 different archetypes. And if you like personality, like Enneagram, human design, any of the personality profile stuff, you're going to geek out over this episode because you'll find yourself in your own sign, but you'll also get to understand that like each of us houses these 12 archetypes inside of ourselves and that we can really create harmony around all 12 and step into the fullness of our femininity. And then last week we had a beautiful episode with Simone, who is a feminine embodiment coach. And we got to explore the whole concept of embodiment, what it looks like to experience this on a very visceral, physical, tangible level. And because she is coming from the perspective of a woman of color, we really dove into what it looks like, depending on your history, depending on generational trauma, like how that shows up as blocks to connect with your own embodiment practice. So go check out that episode. And all of this tees us up so perfectly for today's episode. I feel like each time we talk, we're going to like bring it a layer deeper. So you guys, without further ado, let me introduce you to Emily and Linda. Welcome, guys. I'm so glad you're here.
We're so excited to be here. Thank you for having us.
Woo!
Yeah, thank you for having us. So excited.
Y'all, this is going to be a fun. I've never actually like done an episode where I've had two guests together. So this is going to be fun because I feel like it's just like us over a drink or over coffee, and it's going to be a cool conversation because y'all are the pros on, well, I don't want to just say womanhood. I mean, this is like a new wave of what it looks like to be connected to your womanhood. And Emily, we have such a fun history. Like we have been on a podcast episode before, and I think I was trying to like do the math, and it was, I want to say like 3 or 4 years ago now.
Yeah, I think it must have been about 4 years because it was pre me doing this cyclical living and pre my partnership with Linda as well. So
Isn't that so fun?
Yeah. And so even when you reached out to me, I was like, yeah, you get a new version of Emily and you get a new version of what I'm teaching. Because before, you know, I was always about women's empowerment and self-discovery. And then when I started connecting with my own cycles and my menstrual cycle and the moon, that's when a whole nother layer was woven in. And I almost had this thought of like, how did I teach self-discovery for so many years with women, but I didn't connect them to biologically really who they are?
Yeah. Well, and I'm so glad that we get to get into this today because it's like, that is something that we don't explore a lot of the time. Like it's like all cognitive, it's all in our mind, it's all from sort of this place of the intellect. And I think that's why I love getting at femininity in such a new way, that we are just the most fascinating creatures. I mean, it's just like mind blowing when you start connecting all of the dots. And I know that for me, I'm kind of at the beginning of this part of my journey myself. And so I was like, oh my gosh, I'm so excited, like to just get a little window into how you guys live from such a connected place. And I'm just looking at some of the questions here that I'm going to ask y'all, because I know we could go like a million different directions, but obviously you guys are in this space of teaching about sisterhood, about appreciating our bodies, connecting with our cycles, feminine leadership, all of this. I mean, you've created a whole brand, The Revolutionary Woman, around this. And I know that one of the things that you guys say a lot is alone we can change lives, together we can change the world. So will y'all like share a little story about your journey of becoming one, how you created this together, how y'all got to be in partnership, and give us a little history and background?
Yeah. Linda, do you want to share?
Yeah. So we started, so me and Emily met in a seminar over 3 years ago, and we both just like were drawn to each other, and it was actually all about like, self-discovery, and which is kind of funny. And then our first like coffee chat together, we both just were so drawn to creating like moon ceremonies. Like it was something we were just like, we wanted to bring women up together under the moon, and everything we just shared about. And then at that time, I've already started manifesting with the moon, and I already like was in my tracking my cycle and everything. And Emily just started that, so everything was like we were meant to be. And then for 2 years, we did in-person women's ceremonies every month together in San Francisco. But during the time, we both have our own companies. So, and they're kind of similar, right? I had my like holistic healing, and she had her coaching. But it's all about like supporting women on their journey. And we felt that our whole idea is that we want to show women that it's important to collaborate. But during our journey, we kind of realized that, well, there's always going to be this separation between us if we have our own thing on the sides. And then at that time, Emily had already started the Revolutionary Woman Instagram, and it was taking like, people loved all these like quotes and like really honesty and like talking about things that are a little taboo. And so it grew pretty fast. And then last year, in the midst of a lot of shadow work for both of us, we decided that, yeah, it's time for us to both like move beyond our own egos. And what are we meant to do? And like, so if we want to really embody what we teach, we have to like really become that. Yeah. So that's when we like let go of, we become one brand, and we jumped in, and we didn't know like how that's going to look like. And we really had to like let our egos kind of like take the back seat.
Yeah. I mean, and it was definitely tough. We definitely had to walk through some deep shadow work together. We definitely healed some collective sisterhood trauma wounds. Yeah. Because there was always that, no matter how much we loved each other when we were doing our ceremonies together and bringing women together and creating this community together, there was always that little sense of competition. And so we really wanted to move past that. We didn't want that to exist, because that was going against everything that we were actually teaching and trying to stand for. So yeah, I mean, just checking our egos and holding space for each other. And I mean, I know my partnership with Linda has been one of the most healing relationships of my life.
There's so many pieces of this that I like cannot wait to dive into, because you've thrown out a lot of terms that I want to slow down and like define, because I know that my audience isn't as woo-woo as we are. Okay. So we got to like break it down. So first of all, let's talk about the sisterhood wound, because I think this is so common. And yet I think that term sisterhood wound is a little bit foreign for people. I think we all feel it. We've all experienced it, but we don't know that that's what it is. So can y'all talk to that a little bit? What is that collective trauma that we experience?
Well, we are taught from an early age to kind of compete with each other, like, or that, gossip is part of our nature, or that there's something about like, as women, you grew up and like women are a certain way. It's kind of this like societal norms that have been pushed on us, even though we have girlfriends, and many of us have, but a lot of us have never really felt safe. For our own journey, we've always had like a lot of friends, and like, but there's always been this like either competition, or that that if you do something wrong, that instead of talking to each other and communicate, you kind of go behind people's back, or it's right. It goes back so long to far during our research together. It goes back to when women became property of men, like to be married, and then it became like this, like women had to fight over like the best men, because that was like something that you wanted. You married well, you had children, you married well. And yeah, I think that even no matter where we are in our womanhood, there's this judgment even on social media and everything, it's like we judge women so hard. We judge ourselves because it goes back to ourselves. We project our insecurities on other women.
Yeah.
So we've seen it in our own lives, in our own journey, and that's something we sit with a lot. We have a community called the Moon Society, where we have women's circles. So women really can come to a place and be safe and just share from a place of just sharing, instead of like, they're not there to get advice.
Yeah.
Or
So
that's
powerful.
So
Well, I was just going to say too, like, it is so prevalent, and to be able to have a space, and just obviously from the work that you guys have done together, had to do together, that now now it really has birthed this beautiful place for women to heal that and to see each other as one another's allies and support team, which is so historical. I mean, I feel like within history, the women gathered together, whether it was for a birth or a death or to feed the tribe or whatever that looks like. I mean, we have a rich history of that. So we can go back generationally and access some of that wisdom from before. And I love this idea of moon circles, like this concept of the moon, which again, I'm like, this feels very mysterious. It feels like, whoa, is this so woo? Like, what are they even talking about? But I, in my own journey, have really connected with some of this myself. So when you talk about ceremony, I want to like break that down as a concept, because we've lost that in our culture today. And unless you're a part of a religion that does ceremony, that's usually like an Eastern religion. Like for those of us who are Western, living in Europe or living in the United States, Canada, like we don't get that. So when you talk about ceremony, give us some context for what you mean when you say that word.
So ceremony, I would say, is a time for a group of people to come together in union for one purpose. So, you could think of Thanksgiving almost as a ceremony with your family. That would be a really easy way to break it down, or Christmas, or any of the holidays that people, honor. But, in the past, women would come together and do ceremony all of the time. And so that's what we honor, we feel like, with our women's circles. And that when we come together, the commonality is supporting each other, but also using the energy of the moon. And so, so then each of the moon phases has a different energy. And the two common ones are the full moon, which people are really familiar with, right? It's this big full moon in the sky. And then we bring people under the new moon. So the new moon is the first of the 8 moon cycles. And it's the time that women used to come together and they used to bleed together. So when women of the tribe, they would menstruate and they would retreat from their duties, and they would go into their red tent, and then they would bleed together, and they would pass down stories. That's when, it was like women's rights were passed down in this way, verbally. Tradition, stories, all of that.
Wow. It's heartbreaking, when you think about how we as a society look at women's menstruation. Like already, I guarantee you there are some people that are cringing that we've even that we're talking about it, that like we've said the word menstruation, we've said the word, well, I'm going to say the word period. It's like we have such a volatile relationship with our bodies when it comes to our menstruation. And so for me to even think about a time where that would be celebrated, that would be sacred, that would be like a moment to kind of retreat from normal life and come together in solidarity and honor this God-given cycle that every woman has that creates life. And yet here we are, fast forward, it is shamed, it is made fun of, it's something to be embarrassed about. I mean, we're taught these messages as little kids. So this is interesting though, to think about, okay, if this has been done like historically, and here we are repeating this, like you guys are teaching women how to do this again. Why the moon? Like, I'm taking it back real basic. Okay. So like, can you help us understand this, like femininity to moon connection? Like what is the connection between the moon and women?
Wombs. wombs and the moon are directly connected. Yeah.
How so?
Yeah.
Well, the womb is, well, your body's made up a lot of water. So when we're naturally kind of connected to the tides of, the rhythms of the moon. So you think of Earth and how the tides change. And then the womb as well is just this portal. I don't know. I'm missing the words to how to explain this. Linda, you want to pop in?
Yeah. So just like the moon shifts signs, we have the phases. We as women have similar phases throughout the month. So the moon phases are totally like 29 days. And that's our own phases are like their menstrual phase is 29 days too.
Yeah.
So it's like that. And for centuries, we've celebrated the sun, right?
Yeah.
It's like the solar energy, the sun energy, whereas femininity goes really to the shadow work. It's like really a lot of taboo. So you imagine just like the moon and the sky at night.
Yeah.
Like it's the same concept, but it's more like how the phases of just a regular 4 phases or 2 phases in like full moon and new moon. And we have most women know about ovulation and menstruation.
Right.
So they kind of match, and that's what it was. And we all have experienced, if you have new friends or you go into new work, after a few months, you all bleed during the same time.
Yes. I've always thought that was so like, why? Why is that? I mean, obviously there's some sort of intelligence that is happening that we're not aware of. So yes. Emily, what were you going to say about that?
I was going to say that, yes. So, tens of thousands of years ago, there's statues of women with full bellies that are really honoring the yoni and the womb. So I invite anyone to do research on it. It's beautiful. But so they realized that women were directly connected to their moon with their menstrual cycle. And that's why the menstrual cycle was something that was celebrated, because they saw that, the moon is changing in the sky, the woman's body is changing, and then the woman bleeds.
Wow.
So they were seeing this correlation between the woman's body and the moon.
Yeah,
and then everyone would bleed at the same time.
Yeah, even the word moon goes together from a Latin word of menstruation.
Menses.
So it's
wow.
So it's really, so for us, it was more like when we sat with the sister wound and everything is all connected, because when we were at a time when womanhood, our bleed, everything was celebrated, where we got to connect and we got to share our own stories, where her story was still something you talked about, but we have moved into his story. So we were disconnected from ourselves. So we live in a history.
Yeah.
Right? So we can see the sister wound goes back to that too, because when women became disconnected from their bodies and each other, we stopped sharing stories. And then we start blaming, our bodies for, bleeding, and it was shameful. And that also brings a lot of to like how we look at ourselves today. We might not see that correlation, but we are, trying to fix ourselves constantly, losing weight. We're never good enough, right?
Yeah.
And that's such a basic part of who we are. And if we can't even embrace that we bleed every month, that's already a really huge disconnect from like who you are as a woman.
It's sad, isn't it? Like there's just, I'm just having this moment of just like, this thing that was once so precious is now like we do anything to pretend it doesn't exist and make the pain go away, even to the point of, taking birth control so we don't have a bleed every month. It's just interesting how far we've gotten away from that, which is why your work is so important. So how can people who are like in that place of being disconnected from their bodies and their cycle, how can they begin to embrace that and appreciate that again? Hey y'all, I'm sure you've been hearing me mention my Fully Alive Circle membership, and you might be wondering what it is and how you can join. So let me tell you a little bit about it. So the Circle membership is a safe place for women to gather together in a heart-centered community to take this deep dive into personal transformation. So it's my online membership where you'll learn how to find yourself again through daily devotional practices. Inside of our private Facebook group, I share resources like guided meditations, yoga practices, essential oil recipes, journal prompts, and so much more that dive into our monthly topic that we explore right here on the Living Fully Alive podcast. And all those resources are delivered to your inbox weekly to help you create powerful change in your life. So if you're looking for an affordable way to continue your journey of living fully alive, then definitely check out the Fully Alive Circle membership. Just go to maryhyatt.com/circle and you can find out all the details and join. All right, now back to this week's episode.
I think that really connecting to the moon is a great way in starting to track their cycle. And we have a freebie that if you want to share with your followers that teach people how to track their cycles. And it's a chart and then has different moon phases. And you go around and you just start tracking. How are you feeling every day? Are you bloated? Do you have acne? Are you happy? And because I think that this actually really ties into, if we can have a moment to really talk about the 4 cycles that the woman goes through every month. And then once you start to know these 4 cycles, you can honor each cycle in your own different way. And we know that so many people are busy and so many people are caught in the grind. And really, this is something that you could spend 5-10 minutes doing a day. You know, you can even, when you wake up in the morning, put your hands on your womb and saying, I love you. I'm here for you. I'm listening now. You know, that these kind of rituals don't have to take a ton of time. And yes, we understand that for people that are not used to this way of talking, of how weird and strange and woo-woo this may sound, but from our experience, that when women start to hear this, like you had said, like you kind of get angry, but then you realize like, wow, I've always felt really connected to the moon. I've really always felt drawn to her for some reason, or like, wow, I always bleed under the full moon or the new moon, you know, that you notice these things. And it's this remembrance that I feel is like locked in women. So when they start to experience it, it's just this remembering of things that you already know. That's a really natural way of living.
Yeah. And you get the more you learn about this, your self-awareness is going to increase and you're going to have a new appreciation for yourself and who you are. And like for me and Emily in our journey, like we've seen women that didn't used to, like that didn't have a bleed anymore, but by connecting to the moon and then their bodies and slowly tracking, they start getting a bleed again. I've seen women that have struggled to become pregnant, that literally without any medication, have actually, like, by just tuning into your own bodies and healing your, trauma in your womb, that you actually started getting a healthy bleed. And if you just have the understanding that as a woman, you have 4 seasons in 1 month. So you have winter, spring, summer, and fall in 1 month. And that's a really easy way to understand that, wow, how do I normally feel when it's winter during the year, right? More tired and you don't have energy, you want to sleep more. And that's usually related to our menstruation. And then summertime, when you just want to stay out and you have so much energy, that's our ovulation. And then fall is like when you feel more tired again, you would go inwards. That's our premenstrual phase. And then you have the spring where you're starting to come out of your shell. That's the pre-ovulation. And like one of the phases we talk about a lot is actually the premenstrual, because that's a time in womanhood where we might start feeling like, am I crazy? Last week I had all the right words, but your hormones are dropping. So you can literally like have a hard time formulating sentences.
Well, and it's actually where I am right now. So it's really interesting. Last week I was like on fire. Yes, I want to be out. I want to meet people. And like today I'm like, I like don't even know what I'm trying to say here. Help, Linda. Like I'm losing my words. And it's the more you can learn to live with these energies, the more self-awareness you have, like Linda mentioned, but like this deeper self-love and compassion. Yeah. So instead of feeling like you have to be linear all the time and do it like a dude all the time, because they're more related to the sun, and the sun is masculine and the moon is feminine. So we really ebb and flow with everything. I mean, our bodies, our emotional, our physical, everything mentally ebbs and flows throughout the month. We are never the same.
It's so freeing, I think, like just to bring that level of grace to the ebb and the flow and the change that's happening, and to know that like, okay, I'm on a 24-hour cycle, or 24. See, here I am. I was actually, so I was thinking about how the man is on a 24-hour cycle, but we are on a month cycle. And so to understand that, like you said, I'm not going to be a level 10 for all 30 days, 29, 30 days. Like that would be like living in summer all the time. And we need the seasons. We need that balance where there is sort of that slow death, the rest, then the new life, then the like manifestation, the harvest, all of that. And so to see this cycle happening inside of ourselves, it's mimicked in nature. It creates that sense of connectedness, that sense of oneness. And I know that one of the terms that you guys live your life by is this cyclical living. So is that what you're talking about when you use that phrase, cyclical living? You're talking about honoring that within your own like hormonal cycle?
Yes. So I would say it's the seasons of the earth, the rhythms of the moon, and the phases of your own menstrual cycle. So it's all of those three elements woven together in a way that works for you.
Yeah. Okay.
And learning to dance with that, because a lot of women that we talk to or we work with, they say, well, I feel empowered to be on a pill because I'd rather like, disconnect from that and like, be able to like go. But then we always ask questions because it's always a choice, right? But how do you feel throughout the month? And like a lot of women are like, well, I do have problems with endometriosis. I'm always stressed. I always drink like 5 cups of coffee during a certain time of the month, So we push ourselves so hard. So I think that we're taught that as women that we need to be independent because otherwise we are not succeeding in life. But that's something also we teach, that actually it's okay to be codependent, like on your sisters, on like your body, and like to understand your own rhythms. Because when you know that, then like I know that I have maybe a whole week where I'm going to be sharp. Like my brain is so sharp that my ideas are like amazing.
Yeah.
Whereas before I used to push myself so hard, and I used to have, both me and Emily, why we do this now is because we're own healing journey. We struggle with, cysts, fibroids, endometriosis, and learning to, understand my own body and our own bodies, like that we've healed from things.
Yeah. There's no greater, I think, awareness than that, of just being able to be so tapped in that you can utilize the energy to your benefit. Like, push when your energy is really high, allow yourself to recover when your energy is low. And, I've even done a little bit of research. My sister has gotten into this a lot. And even just in the way you move your body, like exercising, there's different cycles of that. Like you don't want to be doing cardio during certain, parts of your cycle, as opposed to like, I would imagine, and correct me if I'm wrong, but during that ovulation, it's like, turn up the heat, get the sweat on, like make it happen. But like when you're menstruating, like I'm menstruating right now, and there's no ounce of me that wants to do any cardio. It's like, I just want to like essentially lay in Shavasana and just,
I was going to say yin yoga. That's what you want to be doing, right? Yes.
But our society doesn't create space for that, because it's like, well, no, you've got to be doing cardio every single week, no matter where you are on your cycle, or you've got to be doing weightlifting or whatever it is. Even like eating certain foods, there are certain foods that are very grounding, or there's, you think about carbs or proteins. I know for me, it's kind of like the one thing I think women would identify with is like you crave protein when you're menstruating, or like red meat, if you're carnivore. And it's just interesting that our modern diet doesn't give any space to this shift of like feeding your body in relationship to your cycle. So can y'all talk a little bit about some of the nuances of that? Because I just think this is fun to geek out on for a second.
Do you want to go with some of the foods they could eat during different phases?
Sure. Yeah. So it's definitely everything you just said. It's like, it's so spot on with how we eat and how we work out, and all of that can like really help our bodies to recover and be more, even our intuition can be strengthened by just like doing these things. So easy way to think about it is just like with the seasons. So ovulation time is a great time to just like, maybe you just want to have salads, something light, a lot of leafy greens, but also that's something when you are in wintertime, your menstruation phase, stews, right? Really like soupy stuff. Like I love just eating like earthy, hearthy, like, yeah, stews.
Yeah.
Stews or
Like roots, like and
yeah.
vegetables. Yeah.
Yeah. And actually like our bodies burn more calories when we menstruate too. So if you do crave more food, like allow yourself to eat that.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and also know that at times when we crave, so a lot of women, we crave chocolate. I love chocolate, especially when I'm bleeding. But a lot of times that's because you have a deficiency in magnesium. So you can, so that's like, okay, so then definitely add more leafy greens to support it. Like maybe are you getting a lot of migraines or headaches or PMS? Then start cutting up coffee before you start bleeding, because that's going to affect your hormones when your hormones really drop. So I would see it as like thinking about like during the seasons in the year, what do you eat? And that's kind of changes like the way. So it's like from being more like heavy food when you bleed to like, you know, start doing more salads, light foods, you know, maybe more cold foods like acai bowls and things like that during your ovulation.
Yeah.
Whereas when you bleed, you want more maybe like warmer foods.
This is like putting a whole new level of depth to intuitive eating. It's like, oh man, I love intuitive eating and practice that and teach that. And this is like next level intuitive eating. Like you're really so connected with your body. And what I think is so cool, because I think so often we can get in such a woo-woo space that like it's hard if you haven't lived in this and you haven't practiced this or whatever, it just feels like so foreign. But I think what's cool that I'm gathering is that this is also very scientific. Like you're looking at the actual hormone levels in your body and what they're doing and how that's shifting your chemistry and all the way you absorb things and the different nutrients that you need at different times to support your brain, to support your hormones, to support your womb and what it needs to do. So in a way, this is so beautiful because it's like, yes, this is ancient. Yes, we've known this like from a place before science was ever, you know, created as a way to prove things. We knew it intuitively, but now it's so neat to be able to see the science back this up. And I would imagine you could literally like get your blood work taken at each of these different phases of your cycle, and it would show this, like it would demonstrate exactly what you're talking about, which is so cool.
It really does. And even like, honestly, now I'm really happy. Even the medical field are now seeing the importance of knowing. So if a woman has certain problems, that they actually are looking more like, okay, when, like, how is your menstruation? Like, what color is your blood? Like, they're actually like realizing that these things can actually be a part of what you're going through. Like if you're depressed or, you know, having feminine, you know, issues, usually it's related to how you eat and how you bleed.
Wow. I just love this so much. And, you know, Emily, I'm just wondering for you, like coming out of a place of being in the coaching world, doing the kind of work that when we first met, you were really into, to now, like, what are the benefits that you're seeing in the clients that this is giving you access to that you didn't have before? Like what is that transformation process like now?
I think that definitely seeing a deeper self-love and acceptance, you know, where there's no more fighting who they are, where there's this surrendering. And like I mentioned before, that there's this remembrance that I feel is locked within women. And they're like, wow, I remember this way of being. I remember, you know, and a lot of what we do is with our weekly circles. So creating this safe container to just hold women in all their different phases. Like we have a saying at the Moon Society, that's your whole self is welcome here. And really, instead of really coaching, I'm just holding space. Yeah. I'm holding space for the bigness of women to be and for all their phases, or we're holding the space for these women to go through all these different phases. And I think that for me, I always felt that the coaching industry was very masculine based. It was very go, 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 do. Let's set goals. Where do you want to get? Let's go, go, go. Yep. You know, and now it's, instead of this go, 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 it's more of a spiral. It's this continuous ebb and flow. It's this, okay, like there's growth and then there's shadow work and there's this dance that we're always doing and it's fluid.
Yeah.
And one of the things we also teach is manifesting with the moon. So we're never going against the natural energies around us. We're always like stepping into these natural energies and allowing them to hold that container for us and support us.
It's so gracious. Like I just think that the expectation that we have on ourselves as women to be in that masculine energy all the time and just to be in constant growth, constant achievement, constant manifestation. I mean, like with my clients, it just sets women up to feel like a total failure and feel like I'm not doing enough. Everybody's doing more than me. And to be able to say, like, what would it look like to work with myself, work with my energies? I mean, having shifted from this, I remember it was so distinct for me. And even in my coaching of like, I should say, even in my own journey of like, can I do it a different way? Like, I remember this subtle shift of going, I want to prove that I can be successful without all of this masculine energy being at the forefront of what I'm doing. And instead, and I didn't know all the things that we're talking about yet, but it just felt intuitive of like, there's got to be a different way that includes rest, that includes that sort of like listening to your intuition, connecting with your soul, disconnecting, even going into the cave, isolating, going into the tent, some of that kind of stuff that really people don't talk about outside of like your 1 week vacation that you get a year. So I just think that this is so cool to bring back this remembering of what has worked for so long. I think that's such a beautiful way of saying it. Linda,
actually,
you were going to say something?
Yeah, I just want to add to that because it's funny because this year we've been all about being in the flow. Okay, we're going to create our own schedule. 9 to 5 doesn't exist. Our cycle, like how I flow with my energy during the day, like I work with the masculine energy of like keeping some structure.
Yeah.
But like I let my feminine energy flow within the structure. So Emily and I have, I mean, since last year, like the first 2 years together, it was like struggle almost because we had so many rules of how we have to work and we work so hard. And then this year we're like just being in alignment and flow and teaching feminine leadership. We have increased, everything is like, we make 10 times more than last year.
Wow.
And and we work less and we take time when we need to. And I think that's something that we are definitely like embracing. And I want to add to another layer of what Emily said. Another thing that I think the women in our community that connect to this and allow themselves to be in flow, they feel sexier. Like it goes even to like that, like, their sex life increase. Everything becomes like, wow, I feel so like I'm a sexy woman,
Yeah. I love this so much. I'm like, one of the things that I can't wait to talk to my audience about is this whole piece of the sexuality, because it's like, I mean, even just like getting your hormones balanced, like so often, we just think like, oh, we have low libido or, I'm getting older. And so that's just not a thing. But to be able to work in this flow, it's like, and again, that's not all month, where you're in that spot, but it's like, it's life force energy. I mean, it's literally like, it's magnetism, it's energy that is like pumping when you're alive and you are connected. And that's not something that is like woo woo. That, I mean, we've all felt that in times in our life, and it feels amazing to be like turned on for life, like from a spiritual standpoint, from kind of a, get out of just like the sexuality, just sensuality, being present, being here for it. And I've experienced that myself. Like, I know like this work leads to that. And it's so beautiful to go, wow, I'm awake. Like I'm awake for life and connected. I mean, that is to me, the gift in all of this is to be connected with that sexuality that we have from like a literal sense, but also like a figurative sense of being turned on, for life. Okay. So I want to know for the women who are like, this is so intro and like blowing their minds, how can they stay connected with you guys to learn more? Where can they find you? What have you got going on that they can get into? Let us know.
Okay, I feel like there's a lot. You could follow us at The Revolutionary Woman on Instagram. So you can come connect with us there, say hi. We love chatting with people in our DMs. So if you ever have any questions, go ahead and shoot us a message. We do have a free guide called The Period Revolution. So
it's awesome. So I when you sent, I was like, this is amazing.
Okay, cool. Awesome. So yeah, it just breaks it down. We're trying to break this down so it's easy and you can implement it into your life. We also have, like we've mentioned, our online membership, the Moon Society, which is all about cyclical living. It's all about sisterhood. We're in love with the ladies that are there, and it's weekly women's circles. We do monthly new moon ceremonies, and just a very engaged Facebook group. So you could always join us there at the Moon Society. And we also do run a feminine leadership and circle facilitation program as well. And we'll be running that 2 times next year. It's called The New She Rises.
Oh, awesome. Yeah. Well, guys, take your pick on ways to connect with Emily and Linda. And I'll make sure to link to everything so you can click straight on it. And I just so appreciate y'all being willing to just share really the wisdom from the past that you are bringing forth again. I just want to give you the opportunity to both just like share anything that is left that hasn't been said. If there's anything, conclusion, takeaway, whatever that might be.
I feel like there's so much more we can still talk about.
Oh, I'm sure.
But I think that it's just that if you've listened to this and you're not totally freaked out, which we understand that if you are too, because we understand that it's a whole new way of living and something that we're not taught. But if you are feeling curious, you're feeling that little nudge within you, trust it. Like, that is your body. She is awakening. She wants to live this way. The cyclical living, it's so familiar once we start doing it. And I think as humans, we live like we're separate from the energies around us when it's all working together, and it's all working for us too, and so if you suffer from PMS and you're really stressed out, and that doesn't have to be your reality, and really starting the cyclical way of being could be that like key to the lock. It really can be. And you could actually heal PMS. Like, that is something that you can heal.
I was going to ask about that because I was like, is it normal? Because it's like such a thing we talk about, like every woman, it's like a thing. So I love that you said that, like, maybe it's not.
Well, and Kate Northrup, like, love her, that she has this book called Women's Bodies, Women's Wisdom. I could have got that background. And she talks a lot about this. And she does talk about certain things to do if you suffer from different, like, women's health issues.
Yeah.
And even about how PMS, like, so many women suffer from that, and you don't have to. So I would really say check out her book because she has so much wisdom in that.
Love it. I love Kate. She was on the podcast months ago talking about money, but I love that she's so connected in that too. Linda, how about you? Any last words of wisdom?
Yeah, I would just say that, as a woman, there's so much more to you. There's so much more to you than just chasing something or trying to constantly fix yourself. So just by tuning into who you are, and like, instead of like searching for your purpose on the outside, like, the purpose is to get to know yourself. Because getting to know yourself and being self-aware is going to, increase your life force, and you are going to know what you want to do in your life. There's not going to be a search anymore. Like, if you tune into yourself, and honestly, like, nothing is impossible, and learning to just be who you are and like love your body for what it is and what it does for you, it will change your life. And I say that from my own experience, and also like, the things I've manifested in my life when I've been able to tune into these energies of like the moon and my body, and things that sounds woo-woo that I realize now, like, they're actually not woo-woo. They're like just hidden secrets that haven't been shared from us. So if we can start doing this for ourselves, but we're going to do it for our future daughters. And I think that's the most important. Like, if you take responsibility for your own healing and like start like embracing who you are, then we're going to teach our daughters, and that's going to be a new generation for the future. And I think that's just the final piece I would say.
I love that. It's so hopeful. It's really hopeful to like think like, oh my gosh, there will be women who don't hate themselves and aren't in competition and respect nature and respect their bodies in a way that creates collective healing. It's so encouraging to hear this point of view and to know that we get to be a part of that shift and a part of that change. And I just so appreciate the work that you guys are doing, you ladies are doing in the world, and we need you. And you are really birthing a whole new wave of consciousness. And I say that in like the least woo-woo way that I can. But
Mary, I want to say one thing. Sorry. I just realized it's not Kate Northrup. It's her mom. So I was like,
Christine.
that's not right. Yeah. So I'm like, damn, premenstrual brain that's mushed right now. So I was like, that's not right. So yeah.
She does I mean, Christine, her mom does so much, work, you know, with feminine hormones and all of that. I have that book. It's giant, right?
It's really giant. Yeah. Yes. Okay.
But her daughter still, she does a lot with the moon cycles. Like even in her planner, she has a whole space for that, which is really beautiful. So you weren't that off. I
was like, wait.
I was like, this works because she still does. No, it's so great. And I love your premenstrual brain. It's awesome.
Oh my God, send help.
Oh my gosh. Y'all, thank you so much for being here. I know we could have like literally talked for hours. This is just the beginning, but I appreciate you so much. So thanks for being here.
Thank you for having us.
All right, guys, I am excited that we have one more episode for this month's topic of femininity. So if you enjoyed this episode, please share it with your sisters, your literal, figurative sisters, your cousins, your aunts, your mom, whoever who could really just enjoy something that is a new perspective on what it means to embrace our femininity. And I will see y'all next week. But just remember that the purpose of life is to be grateful, to be great, and to be full. I'll talk with y'all soon. Bye. Hey y'all, thanks so much for listening to today's episode. I hope you got some amazing nuggets to take home and start implementing into your life. And if you're looking for the show notes and links, head on over to maryhyatt.com/show. And if you loved it, why not bring your girlfriends along this journey of becoming fully alive with you? Just give a quick share of this episode to your social channels and enjoy those debriefing convos with your besties. Thanks again, and I can't wait to connect with you next week.